Does this ring a bell? The thing that excites me about a cartoon like this, with full credit to Tom, is that this is a cartoon that's speaking truth to power, the power of AI. I believe that as AI is changing our world, and we are all actively participating in that toward making the world a better, more automated, efficient place where we can all go play golf or whatever else we want to do, there is a journey we are all on. And today, I want to take some time talking about where we are in that journey, why we believe what eGain is doing is going to be really crucial to helping businesses like yours improve customer experiences and do it efficiently. No doubt about the fact that consumer adoption of AI is absolutely going gangbusters, right? How many of you here have played with Sora 2? Anyone? No one? Everyone's busy working? Okay, all right. Well, if you haven't, you should, or if you know someone who has, you should take a look. It's the video generating app from ChatGPT, OpenAI family. What's interesting about it is that it's become so real now that there's the usual challenge around copyright and IP infringement and so on. Notwithstanding the legality and the IP issues, the fact that now we can do the same kinds of things with video that we could do with text a year or 2 years ago is mind-boggling. So the long-term prognosis of AI is a challenging one and an exciting one. It's challenging for this reason, clearly. This is a Senate report from last week. I don't think it got a lot of press, but it was put out there. Just to put it in context, there are about 150 million people who are working in the US today. So we're talking big numbers, big changes. Interestingly, just yesterday, or today, by date, the Nobel Prize for Economics for this year was announced. And the winners are people who have explained in economics and historic terms the process of innovation and creative destruction. We are living it in accelerated form. So when all this is kind of moving in an inexorable pace, which if you are leading that, it's very exciting. If you are riding it, it's fun. If you're left behind, it's a challenge. So for every business, the challenge now is how do you ride the wave, if not lead it? How many of you have seen this survey report? MIT survey? Yeah. A lot of talk and chatter around this. I think it came out last month. And what's interesting about it is not the fact that ROI is hard to come by at this point with AI projects, but the fact that the percentages are so skewed. So let's unpack that a little bit. I believe that this does not mean that AI is not working in business. It does not mean that. What it means is that change in these enterprises takes time. And the way to do it is something that requires a way to organize, a way to understand, and a way to build systems that can take advantage of AI capabilities. So I would say there are two parts to this stat. One, which did not get as much press, is literally every single company has an internal AI project of above a certain size of companies in the US. When I say project, I mean a program across the entire business. But there are areas of business where ROI is easier to measure, ROI is perhaps easier to get, and where the needle can be moved quite significantly. And one of those areas, we believe, is customer experience, customer service, customer support, everything to do with operation of customer interactions. So CX is a very target-rich area for AI ROI. And that makes sense because there's a lot of human and expert interaction with customers in the area of customer service, customer support, then moving on to sales and field service, et cetera. This 5% that shows ROI, when you get into the report, you find that most of those projects are in the area of customer interaction optimization. You also find areas of improvement on the software development side. So there are two pockets of good ROI, relatively speaking, good ROI with all these AI investments. One is in software development, and the other is in customer operations. And we, collectively, are looking at the area of customer operations. So that's quite interesting. Now, let's think about customer operations more broadly and try to understand what it is that AI can do and where it can be applied reliably and effectively. Both those are really important for businesses to adopt. Right? If you think about business process, business operations, it's nothing but a whole bunch of what you can call automatable processes and a bunch of exceptions that come out of those automated processes, right? And those exceptions are handled by humans. That's what most business operations are. And so that means if you are looking to improve efficiencies in business operations, you have to focus on those exceptions. Handling of exceptions is where most of the cost goes into business operation, which is where the people cost is, people expertise is. And that's where you learn and you improve your straight-through processing capabilities. The challenge with it, though, is that when you're looking at enterprises, when you're looking at large businesses like yours, it's not easy to affect change with AI. So let's look at what the environment is like, what we see when we are working with you and our other clients. What do we see? This is what we see. We see a lot of complexity. We see a lot of silos everywhere. It's the nature of business, right? Lots of silos. You've got people in tech, you've got people in AI groups, you've got people in customer service, you've got people in field operations. Everyone is talking their own language. They also have their own IT tools and IT systems. They're all siloed. Their content, their know-how is siloed. AI exposes that very, very easily because AI cuts through the functional silos and workflows you can create that go across these different functions to ultimately deliver to customer experience or customer engagement. And it doesn't work because these silos don't talk to each other. So the complexity and silos. And lastly, compliance. Compliance is a huge issue that we all are used to when we are working as humans. We get trained, we learn what to say and how to say, we learn what not to say. We learn, and there are measurements in place, recording, quality assurance. All of those systems have been built for human-centric exception handling of business operations. Along comes AI, and now suddenly the expectations are a lot higher. Right? The expectation now is that it needs to be perfect. There should be no compliance glitch. That is a very high expectation. That's a very high bar, right? On the other hand, with a lot of AI projects, and I'm sure you've seen it in your businesses, there is variation in output because people are still putting together these systems, your teams, your AI counterparts, or your teams if you are the AI folks. They are putting together these systems across silos, and one change in a prompt, or one change in context, or one change in input can change the entire result of the conversation or on the other side. If it were a human system, which is where we are for the most part in contact centers and business functions like that, that would be handled as just acceptable error rate. But if it's AI, hell breaks loose. Social media, all kinds of things happen. Fines, this, that. So we are at an early stage of adopting this capability, and the spotlight is intense. That speaks to the challenge of not getting ROI at this point. It's only been 3 years since generative AI was put out there on a consumer basis. And then the last thing I think we all should keep in mind is we are living in a bubble right now. Now, clearly it's an investor bubble as well, but it's also a technology bubble. There will be bumps along the way, probably big ones. But in the long arc, in 3 years, we've been able to do more than we have done with 10 in the last one that we had with the internet. Let's say the one somewhat as big as this one, right, in terms of technology disruption, technology innovation. And so when you're living in a bubble, it's a very anxious environment. There's a lot of attention. There's a lot of focus. Businesses are investing. They are committing to AI-based business models. Just the other day, Jamie Dimon from JPMC was talking about building the first big AI bank. Now, that's a big ask. It'll be made of a lot of small things, a lot of small projects, a lot of failure, because you're moving fast. So my comment here is not to say that I'm happy about the high rate of failure, the 95% rate of not getting ROI, but that's the nature of being in a bubble which is moving extremely fast, technology that's changing very, very quickly. And to me, it's very exciting. I'm sure you feel the same way. Because in a couple of years, we're going to start to get the ROI that we are looking for. It will take a few steps, and it'll take organizing, systematizing, and working on projects and areas that can deliver AI ROI quickly, measurably, and that's what we are going to talk about in the rest of my conversation here. Before I get going on that, let me just quickly do a summary of where I think AI state of state is, and share some thoughts that I think are relevant as you decide how to think about applying generative AI and other forms of AI, like symbolic AI, in your business. So the first thing I feel, and this is important to kind of give credit where it's due, Microtasks, well-specified microtasks, can be done very well with generative AI widgets now. I call them widgets. They are incredibly powerful. They are incredibly useful, but they're still a widget. They're not a solution. They're not a system. And when you call it a widget, a component, it automatically brings the notion of organizing and building systems using those widgets in interesting ways. The second thing you want to kind of keep in mind is all this talk about hallucinations and so on. It is true that Gen AI hallucinates if you try to push the boundaries. But if you scope the requirement and the expectation and the prompts effectively and tightly, hallucination is a very, very manageable problem. It's not a real issue anymore. In fact, working with our customers, and we have been doing this for a couple of years now, and the last 1 year has been intense, with all the systems we are building with AI and our knowledge tools, 10 times out of 10, when there is a problem on the output saying, oh, this answer looks like AI is hallucinating, when you do a root cause analysis, what you find is that the inputs are mistakes. It's not the widget, it's the input. Now, that's not to say that Gen AI let loose will not hallucinate. But as I said, if you limit it, if you create prompts and tight scope, and you ask it to do micro tasks, hallucination is not an issue. It's an important thing to keep in mind because that is the basis on which you build reliable systems. The third thing is that the whole talk about AGI, while it's quite exciting, and I think at some point it might happen because I do think that there's some fundamental improvement required in sort of research and development around that. It's still not something we should be looking at from a business standpoint, from an enterprise standpoint, as a widget that we can deploy, at least not for the next couple of years. Which means all our thinking should be around these tightly scoped, micro-task-focused AI widgets. And that is a very exciting prospect because the cost of AI in that space that I just mentioned to you is dropping like a rock. How fast is the cost of inferencing in Gen AI dropping? Let me give you a comparison, right? And exponentiation is hard to compare, but let me just give you a comparison. Cost of compute, digital computing, has, according to the now almost proven, though it's not a law, but Moore's law, has come down by a factor of 2 every 18 months. Over the last 50 years. So every 18 months, over the last 50 years, cost of compute for the same amount of compute has come down by half. That's a lot of multiplication. I'm sure you can do that. Inferencing cost, in the small span of time that we've had, since for the last 3 years roughly, it's just about 3 years now, have come down by a factor of 2 every 6 months. It's not just a difference of a multiplier of 3, right? It's a lot more than that. So what used to cost $100, the amount of inferencing that you would do for $100 in December of 2022 is now costing roughly $3. It's a little less than $3. That is a critical piece to keep in mind for enterprises as you're building systems. Because I'll repeat the chain of thought here. If you start with tightly scoped microtasks where you apply AI as a widget, you build systems with lots of those widgets, you can build systems which are affordable, reliable, and can do very impressive automation for your business. That's sort of the high-level view of AI that I think we should be going with as we build out capabilities. The way I think of Gen AI is a freshly minted graduate, smart, bright, gets hired in your business, doesn't know a thing about your business, except that she or he has all the smarts and is eager to go. If that person can handle a task using all the necessary written know-how in your business, if they can read through it over days, doesn't matter, forget the amount of time, and figure out how to handle a task using written material without talking to anyone, without going back and thinking about what they did in the past, just focusing on the content they have been given, know-how in writing, can they perform the task? If they can do that, the current tools that Gen AI offers can also do the same. That's how you have to think about it. Which means we are living in pretty good times now. All is well. Almost. As I said, the problem is in the input. If that new graduate, that rookie, gets wrong know-how written, or confusing know-how written down, or not enough know-how written down because it's tacit, she cannot solve the problem. And that is the biggest challenge right now in many of the AI projects in customer operations. That's the number one problem, besides the fact that it takes time to build these systems. So that's another issue. So let's talk about how we are solving and we are helping you, our clients, solve this problem. It's something that Gartner talked about last year. I've been doing this for some time, right? I have never seen a Gartner quote or prediction that has a 100% number in it. It's a prediction. This was in 2024, to be fair. But it's so striking in the fact that they are utterly convinced that there is no way an AI project which automates customer interaction can succeed without a modern knowledge management system powering the input. Makes a lot of sense. Go back to that rookie that I pointed to. If she is not given all the material to read and understand, how is she going to solve the problem? It's very obvious. But that is a big gap, and a gap which is not as easy to address as one thinks. Of course, we've been doing it for some time, and so we believe we have insights and ways to do it, and that's what makes it so exciting for us. The other thing that is hard to do, which most companies don't quite think about as much as I think we should, is adoption of these tools, especially if that is going to be adopted and used by a human on the other side, right? Let's say we are assisting contact center agents do a better job, or even with end customers through self-service. Adoption comes from trusted, consumable experiences and answers. You cannot force it down people's throat. Same is true for AI projects. If you push something that is not easy to use, or doesn't feel right, or doesn't quite give me an answer that I'm feeling happy about in terms of assurance and confidence, then I'm going to not use it. I'll just flood your contact center as a customer, or as an agent, I'll stop using it. These are not tools that can be ramrodded into your target user, which means that your experiences all the way, not just trusted content, but consumability of that experience also has to be very good. Trusted, consumable answers and experiences. That's where you get adoption. That's what you get ROI. So I'm going to start to look at a pretty dense picture now, but bear with me. This is going to be interesting because it will then lay out what it is that we are announcing now. It's a complicated picture, but not terribly difficult to understand once we go left to right. On the left side, you got your silos of content, and notice I've added one more thing there, which is something new that we're starting to see now, which is conversation stores. The conversations that are happening between your customers and your business. By tapping into those conversation stores, in addition to the content and know-how silos, we can now see not just what answers you want to give, but what questions people are asking, and what is the gap between the questions and the answers. That closed loop is something that AI makes possible. Knowledge management has been around for a while. That's the first box after the content silos. We've been doing it for some time. We've been doing it very well. But it has been a manual process. And because it is largely manual, it makes it hard to be very efficient with it. With AI, there's an opportunity for us to make that much less work, much easier. And you'll see and hear about that through the day. But in addition to the knowledge management, which brings together a single source of truth, a system of record, all that good stuff, in addition to that, you also need to make those trusted answers consumable. And what's the best way to create consumable experiences? It's conversational interaction. It's the easiest. So you don't have to learn a user interface. You don't have to click 6 places. Conversational engagement is the easiest, which is why we prefer talking to another human being. You can just tell them your problem. If you didn't explain it the first time around, they can ask you questions. They can guide you. You don't have to have that cognitive headache of precisely stating your problem using the UI and so on. So the world is moving toward more and more conversational engagement because it's easy on the end customer. And that box, the second box, is where AI excels, the generative AI part at least. Now, it's got some challenges in it too, and we'll talk about that. But if there were a way to build that capability of AI agents, connect the trusted answers that are now being put in a single source of truth on the left box, moving to the right box, which is taking all that trusted content and turning it into conversational engagement, you have a fantastic solution. So that's really what we are after together for your business. If we are able to do that, then the prize is huge. Because the same trusted consumable engagement models are now going to be used across all the different touch points, all the way from self-service, in fact, even before that, proactive engagement with customers, and through the escalation process of the contact center and experts, all powered by the same system with personalized engagement. That is the imagination that we are after. And today we'll be talking about capabilities that bring us really a huge step forward in that direction. These are the 3 big challenges that we saw over the last couple of years, but in the last year, we've been working really hard on it as we move toward that imagination. The first is, while knowledge management is super important and super valuable, it delivers great returns, so the ROI is high, but the I is significant, and it's a lot of manual work. The investment is manual work for the most part. Yes, tools help you a little bit, but not enough. And in many companies, especially the ones which are heavily compliance-oriented and regulated, the amount of work is so high and the rate of change of knowledge is fast enough that you cannot keep up. If you are running a manual knowledge management process, you cannot maintain the relevance and freshness and accuracy of content because the rate of change is too high. Now, if you were a very smart company and a very far-sighted one, I'm not saying you're not, I'm just saying very few companies will invest a lot of manual input into knowledge management so that they can get tremendous returns on the other side. For some reason, adding more knowledge managers is not something most companies like doing, even if it means adding 10 more knowledge managers to have phenomenal ROI of thousands of agents getting super productive on the other side. It just somehow feels like it's more cost. And so effective knowledge management is possible. We do that today. We've been doing it for several years. We have figured it out. We call it the knowledge method. But the level of automation is still not as high as we think it should be for businesses to consume and adopt it at scale and make it just standard operating practice. It was not there yet. And so we're excited that we have taken a big crack at that problem now. The second thing is the AI agents we saw out there, and we've been working with it. In fact, last October at this event, we announced the first version of our AI agent. And the interest was high, a lot of excitement, lots of conversations. As we went through that, we realized that there were lots of things that our customers are asking around things like compliance, things like deterministic execution, and not just statistical probabilistic output. Things like actions that needed to be taken, but taken with assurance that every time the action is going to be taken in a way that can be replicated, can be explained, and does not go, again, non-deterministic. And then finally, the whole challenge of managing the quality and prompts and models and context, all these things that look very exciting when you're building a small little POC become nightmares when you're scaling it at an enterprise level. And so all of that was an issue that we felt needed to be addressed well so that AI agents could become enterprise grade. And the two boxes that I talked about, the left one being knowledge management, the right one being AI agents, that the two of them could work together to deliver enterprise grade automation. And then the last thing we saw, which, again, only after we started to delve deeper into the AI agent space, we saw this, is that most of the companies we are working with, most of you, in fact, I would say all of you, have internal teams that are building agentic solutions for your business, for CX, or for other parts of your business. Those teams, the developer, now I'm talking about the developers, those developers did not seem to have tools that could be more of a Lego-like environment where they could put together reliable components, something that could ensure trusted answers, something that could ensure reliable actions, something that could ensure deterministic reasoning, and stitch it together. Most of them were struggling with building it from scratch with very basic toolkits, like very DIY kind of environments. And these projects, interestingly, were being run in parallel to our other projects that we were doing in these companies, which were more solution-oriented that we were offering, right? So we saw this kind of parallelization, and we felt like these developers, we can help them. We can help them by making our APIs more consumable to them. We can help them by opening up more levels of interfaces in our platform through programmable capabilities, both as APIs or as MCP servers, so that they can compose solutions which have bigger building blocks that are reliable, some of which we can provide and some they can build themselves. So those were the three areas that we felt would really help. And so we worked on it. We worked hard. And we've come up with, as John said, 3 new product capabilities. I won't give you the details on that, but I will set the stage, and my colleagues will talk about these 3. The first one is the eGain AI knowledge method. So the knowledge method, we have automated it to the next level. Automated it in multiple ways. Automated in the way we can ingest and transform and synthesize to create knowledge. The way we can tap into your conversation stores to understand what your customers are really asking, because that then drives what you should be focused on in building, synthesizing your knowledge, and to do it in a continuous way, because your questions change. Then on the eGain AI agent, we've created the second version of that, AI Agent 2. This has the capabilities I was talking about missing in the first version. We have the ability to tap into deterministic reasoning and do it in a very efficient way when needed. We have the ability to assure actions so that you can rely on them in a compliance and regulated environment. We have the ability to now manage and maintain and govern your prompts and context and models. And finally, we've added the ability to do system-level quality assurance for your AI agents, all the way from your content sources through to the end experience. This is a gap that we saw in the market. No one was looking at tools to assure quality end-to-end. Everyone was looking at components. And these siloed teams that were working in different areas, they would say, oh, I can do my job here pretty well. I've got some snippets and chunks of content. I can turn it into generative responses. But what if the snippets are wrong? So you start getting finger pointing. Then you go to the knowledge management guys. They go, well, it's not my problem, really. The content sources I'm using are actually the problem. So that's the thing we have bridged. We have created an environment, a platform, where you can now reliably build AI agents, and you can assure the quality end-to-end, all the way from your content silos to end-user experiences. And finally, the eGain Composer, which is a net new product we are announcing today. This is a developer-focused capability. So for AI developers who are building solutions, we are giving them building blocks of components that they need to go all the way from content sources and data systems to automated AI-powered experiences. And that you will hear about and how we're doing it. These 3 capabilities put together now give us the confidence that we can engage with you and deliver the sort of promise that AI can indeed help us with, which is better experiences and delivered far more efficiently than ever before. And do it reliably, scalably, with compliance. So I'll close this session with one sort of reflection. We've been looking at this. I've been personally involved in this business of AI and knowledge for many years. And I remember in the last phase and wave of AI, which was late 80s and mid-90s. I wasn't running eGain at that point, but one of our predecessor companies at that point, which we acquired, called Inference. Inference was one of the pioneers in symbolic AI. In fact, the pioneer in symbolic AI. And in the mid-90s and late 90s, GE Research was working very closely with Inference, which then started to work with us because we acquired Inference. And they created a lot of new business applications with the core symbolic AI, case-based reasoning. That was the latest and greatest way to do AI at that point. They used that technology from us and built out applications in customer engagement, customer support, decision support. And they wrote papers on it as to what they learned, and they published it on AAA, the AI conferences and journals. And I remember one comment they constantly brought up, and you can look it up on the web, it's there. They said, the tools work very well in terms of delivering value. The challenge is keeping up and maintaining the know-how. So even then, we knew the problem was not that we didn't know how to solve it, we just did not know how to automate it. And that is the automation that we have now in our hands. We are able to now not just have a knowledge method, but have an AI knowledge method which automates the process of knowledge management and knowledge sourcing, knowledge synthesis. Not just building logical workflows to deliver convenient and good experiences, but agentic solutions which are reliable, deterministic, and deliver assured actions. And finally, the underlying capability for developers to build their own bespoke solutions for their business using building blocks, both from the knowledge side as well as the agentic side. So we are delighted that we are at this point. We are looking forward to sharing the solution with you. As John said, when we are done with these sessions, we'll have a chance to share with you the excitement around these products. There's a lot more to do, which is always there. We will learn a lot when we get the feedback from what you're doing and how you think we should be taking these products forward. We are delighted that you're here to both learn from us and for us to get an opportunity to learn from you. So thank you again, and look forward to a great day.